would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker. Licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. I hope all of you are doing well. We have made it past the middle of the week. We are in the home stretch. I have no idea what I did to myself today, but I feel horrible. But let's try not to let that affect the show, shall we? On the menu for today is checking out cities where prices have actually dropped. And there's a couple of surprises on this list. There's some very interesting cities, particularly since one of them has been one of my favorites. So we'll get into that. And we might even look a little bit more into it to try to get some insights into what's going on. In the meantime, if you'd like to get in contact with me, the best way to do that is through the website at therebelbroker.com. Feel free to click the contacts link in the menu bar, and you can send along any ideas, suggestions, observations, or questions that you might have. And if you'd like to take an extra minute and help the show out, head to the top of the page, click on the big red button that says take the survey to support the show. You'll be asked a handful of demographic questions, and for your email address twice, use the same email address both times. And not only will you be helping the show out, but you'll also be entering yourself to win a $50 Amazon gift card. And we've been doing this now for quite a few months. I think it adds up to $450, something in that neighborhood at this point. Congrats to the folks who've already won. Good luck to those of you who are going to win down the road. And we do that once a month. So you can look forward to that in the first week or two of July. So a great way to, I don't know, maybe enjoy the 4th of July even more and get yourself an extra $50 to spend at Amazon. Okay. I don't know if I want to jump right into the story or save this for the second half of the show. Let's do a quick review of some data first. And the first thing I noticed is that we saw a report through Calculated Risk from the American Institute of Architects, I guess is what that stands for. Their billings are up in May. Quote, design services and architecture firms continue to project a healthy disposition on the construction industry as the Architecture Billings Index recorded the 4th consecutive month of growth as a leading economic indicator of construction activity. This reflects the approximate 9 to 12 month lead time between architecture billings and construction spending. The American Institute of Architects reported the May ABI score as 53, up from a score of 50.9 in the previous month. So the general takeaway there is that it's on the increase. The billings are up for architects, which is a great indicator. And to sort of bring it into the regional area, just so we know how to calibrate ourselves. Regional averages in the South, it was 56.1. In the West, it was 52.3. What's interesting is that is below what that new average number was. Midwest, also below the average number at 50.4. Northeast, 46.5. So the South seems to be where most of this is showing the greatest promise. In terms of sectors, the mixed practice was at 55.8. Multifamily residential was at 51.3. Commercial industrial was at 51.2, and institutional was at 51.2. Now, because I am totally willing to put my hand up in the air and ask the really stupid questions, I want to know what the hell mixed use, or mixed, what did they call it? How did they refer to it? Mixed something or other? Mixed practice? Now, I'm assuming mixed practice is mixed use, right? Where it's maybe a blending of residential and commercial or retail, or that's the only thing I can think of. But here's an interesting point. If you go onto Google and Google what is mixed practice in architecture, the closest you can get is stuff that refers to mixed use, because I'm not seeing anything in these numbers that give me a specific read on single family residential homes. And that seems like something you'd want to report. Instead, I'm getting mixed practice, which I'm not even really sure what to identify that is. It's seeing the greatest amount of increase, with multifamily residential coming in second at 51.3, but that's what we've been seeing forever, right? We've been seeing multifamily residential sort of dominating for a while. We saw an uptick for a while in single-family residential home construction. And what's funny is I can recall previous reports of this type that told me what was going on with single-family residential. Maybe it's in a different report. I'll keep an eye out for it. But whenever I see something suspiciously missing from a report, it makes me wonder why, without them referring to it specifically. So I'm not really in a position, I think, to get a lot of comfort from this. I guess we should be fine with the multifamily residential. I'm still seeing tons of multifamily residential. I was actually driving through Gilroy today. One of my, I know it was about a year ago when I was telling the horrible story of my oldest son trying to get his driver's license. I now have another son doing the same thing. And as if to keep up at least with my sons, the tradition of failing your driving test the first time around, my son has done that. He's vowed that it will not happen again. He refuses to have to go through it as many times as my oldest did. Hope he's right. But in any event, because we were driving around in that area, and I'm not typically driving around a lot in Gilroy, I was stunned to see some gigantic developments that could only be either condos or apartments. And if I was going to guess by where they are, very, very close to retail and commercial spaces, they're going to be apartments. So just blows my mind how much of that is going on, not just all the way down here in Gilroy, but I've also talked a lot about what's going on in the heart of Silicon Valley in terms of Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, Mountain View, South San Jose, all these areas with gigantic developments that ultimately are going to cause a problem, right? You can't build that much apartment and not have it ultimately cause an issue. So we'll see where it goes. At least folks have an option. At the very least, it's keeping rental rates at least in check a little bit for folks who are renting those kinds of properties. Okay, and the other little tidbit I wanted to hit today was the National Association of Realtors is putting out an article that existing home sales rise 1.1% in May. I think that's an interesting number. It's a number you're going to hear a lot in headlines, but make sure that you understand the reality. You know, I was reading statistics that say that at most people read the headline, something like 80% of the people read the headline and that's it. And they walk off into life armed with that as if it is a solid fact that stands on its own and should be enough for you to make a decision on. Then some smaller percentage will go on to read the actual first paragraph, which almost never actually gives you all the information. And then some ridiculously small number, like 1%, will read an article all the way through to the end. It's not going to surprise me at all if this article falls under that heading. But here's the interesting thing to note. You need to understand that while existing home sales may have risen 1.1%, the overall inventory has gone down. That's an important number to keep in mind because remember, it's not changing any of the dynamics. We're still seeing home prices going up in most markets. Things are still going nuts, and I think part of this has a lot to do with buyers simply buying what is available. And it may just be that at this particular point, there's fewer new homes. And also remember, we've talked about the numbers where new homes now tend to be 26% more expensive than existing homes of the same size. Whereas before this craziness, it was more like 6% above the mean when we covered those numbers last week. According to this article, total existing home sales, which are completed transactions that include single-family homes, townhomes, condominiums, and co-ops, climbed 1.1% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 5.62 million in May from a downwardly revised 556 million in April. Last month's sales pace is 2.7% above a year ago and is the third highest over the past year. According to the National Association of Realtors chief economist, Lawrence Yun, someone we've talked about quite a bit on this show, he says that sales activity expanded in May as more buyers overcame the increasingly challenging market conditions prevalent in many areas. The job market in most of the country is healthy, and the recent downward trend in mortgage rates continues to keep buyer interest at a robust level. Those able to close on a home last month are probably feeling both happy and relieved. Listings in the affordable price range are scarce. Homes are coming off the market at an extremely fast pace, and the prevalence of multiple offers in some markets are pushing prices higher. Median existing home price for all existing or all home types was $252,800. That surpasses last June's $247,600 as the new peak median price. It's up 5.8% from May of 2016. Let's see, and marks the 63rd straight month of year-over-year gains. Total housing inventory, and this is really where it comes in. We already get things are growing at ridiculous rates on a year-to-year basis. That 5.8% is the national average. In my area, the number is bigger than that. Total housing inventory at the end of May rose 2.1% to 1.96 million existing homes available for sale, but is still 8.4% lower than a year ago and has fallen year over year for 24, that's 2 years, consecutive months. Unsold inventory is at a 4.2 month supply at the current sales pace, which is down from 4.7 months a year ago. Really, and this is what's kind of creepy. The only thing that is sustaining this market as it is, and keep in mind that everything we're doing, everything that the folks in charge are doing, is designed. Maybe not designed. That may not even be their intent. They may just be so stupid they don't see that this is the obvious outcome of their actions. But all the actions that are being taken in terms of facilitating more ways to borrow money, all that does is increase these prices. This is strictly an inventory problem. We are still at ridiculously low levels of homes being built. If you want to look at a chart for that, I think I actually posted that to Pinterest about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, for a show that we were doing where we were talking about those statistics. And you cannot help but wonder what happens when those things start to reach a balance. And particularly if we start priming the pump with a good number of 120% loan-to-value loans, mortgages on homes. That's all getting started. That's all going to start happening in July. We're less than a month away from that. And all the other stuff we've talked about. So there you go. There's some more happy news for your Thursday. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about cities where prices are actually dropping. There are some big surprises on this list, and we'll probably talk in a little bit more detail about some of them. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right. Aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to jump right into it here with cities where prices are actually dropping. I was actually pretty surprised by this. There's a few in here they're not surprising or not surprising, frankly, because they're cities I've never really dealt with before. But some of them have been on our lists of amazing places to go and invest. In fact, Some of them, I actually have folks who've contacted me from those cities who are talking about how great things are going for them in those cities. So we're going to go ahead and run down this list. And because of the differing info I'm getting, I'm going to suggest that these might be places for you to look and see what's going on. You might be able to analyze these markets and see that there's a stutter in the market that's causing this year over year this reduction in median prices. And we're not talking huge drops, but they're drops in the medians. So you might find it worth your while. I thought I'd share them with you, and some of these, I'm almost certain some of these are going to blow your mind if you've been listening to the show for a while. Now, it's also important to note that the vast majority of these, well, there's a few here where the number is pretty large, and obviously the number 1 and number 2 will be giving us the number 2 item here is most easily explained. But anyway, let's start off with number 9. Newark, Delaware, April of 2016, the median list price was $220,000. The April of 2017 median list price is $215,000. The year-over-year change in median listing price down $5,000. Now, one other thing to think about, first of all, I would not think of, as I mentioned a second ago, I would not think of this as, okay, here's a warning from the Rebel Broker to not get into these markets. I think there's a variety of ways to look at this. These could be communities where simply the luxury end, the higher end, may have simply softened, right? The prices for a specific property may not have gone down, but because of the way these statistics work, if there is a lower volume of higher end homes for whatever reason, that would explain these decreases in median home prices. Also, if there's huge challenges in inventory where the sample size is much smaller, you can often find that can cause issues. However, we're talking about entire cities here, so it's less likely to be that. But I would actually look at this. If you've ever been interested in any of these communities, I actually think this is inspiration to look at them more closely. Try to figure out the specifics. Because there's a couple here on this list that have been on my list of cities I would consider investing in, and I don't consider this a discouragement to doing that. All right, so as I mentioned, number 9 was Newark, Delaware, with a 5,000 year-over-year decrease. Number 8 on the list is Columbus, Georgia. In April of 2016, the median list price was $120,000. In April 2017, the median list price is $115,000. A $5,000 difference, but also make sure to pay attention to terminology. These are not sales prices. These are list prices. So for whatever reason, the median home that's listed is now less than what it was a year ago. It'd be interesting also to get sales data associated with this, but as we get further up into this list, there's a state that doesn't share that information, so it makes that a little bit more difficult. Number 7, Montgomery, Alabama. April 2016, median list price $124,900. April of 2017, median list price $119,900. Year-over-year change in median listing price, $5,000. So far, a $5,000 drop in each of these cities. And here comes the big surprise to me. This is a city that I suggested folks invest in 2.5 years ago. We had read some data. We had some stories that were floating around about this particular city. And I went and analyzed it. I actually did a live analysis, not a live, but I did an on-the-show analysis of properties there and found you could very easily make the numbers work, even if you just worked with asking prices for some properties. You could make everything work in terms of rents and whatnot. That's Round Rock, Texas, where the April 2016 median list price was $315,000. The April 2017 median list price, $309,900, for a year-over-year change in median listing price of down $5,100. Now, I'm gonna go back and revisit Round Rock a little bit in a second, but this actually makes me want to go and look more closely at Round Rock. I don't know people who work directly in Round Rock, but I've talked to people who do real estate in Austin, which is just south of Round Rock, and everything I hear from them is that their investors in Round Rock are doing fantastic. So there are folks that are super happy with the return on investment they're getting. There are folks who are active there. The market does not feel like it's one in decline. So I want to try to get more information on that. Number 5 on our list, which I don't even know what to make. I know this market to the total sum of 0, so I don't really even know what to say about it. Anchorage, Alaska, April 2016, the median list price was $324,600. In April in 2017, the median list price was $314,900 for a year-over-year change in median listing price of down $9,700. And I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, I'm imagining Anchorage, Alaska is very cold. Is it one of those places where winter lasts for where the sun doesn't come up for a super long time? I don't know. I'm sorry to share my ignorance. I'm guessing Anchorage is north enough for that to be true. But if that's your place, if you know a lot about Anchorage and you're hot to get going there, this would be a nice little tap on the shoulder for you to go take a closer look. Number 4 on my list, another one that we've talked about tons before. This particular city has been on many lists, whether you want to talk about return on investment. And this, in fact, it was even on one of our lists we talked about a couple of months ago that goes over the whole, if you had bought 12 months ago, what would your return on investment be today? And this city was on that list in terms of top performers. Houston, April 2016 median list price, $329,900. April 2017 median list price, $319,000 for a year-over-year change in median listing price of $10,900. I've got a listener who checks the show out via YouTube who frequently comments on shows in YouTube who is doing excellent. He just actually, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember if he was concerned about it renting or flipping it, but he had a very interesting construction problem where it wasn't really a problem. It was just trying to decide if it would work or not. But he had a property that was made out of storage containers. And we've talked about that phenomenon, right? And how popular that's gotten in some places or how media popular it has gotten. And he was concerned that it wouldn't work out for him, and it ended up being an excellent deal for him. And he bought in more challenged neighborhoods in Houston. And I've heard from him within the last couple of weeks. So, I mean, he is actually enjoying good returns on his investments in Houston. All right, number 3, a city I'm unfamiliar with, but also in Texas. And remember, Texas does not report sales data. So it makes it a little bit tougher to get information from a distance. If you want to find sales data out, you have to talk to a real estate agent in Texas. So McAllen, Texas. Now, I really didn't know anything about McAllen, Texas. The only thing I quickly checked is where it is on the map. It's not too far from Brownsville. It's very close to the border, relatively close to the coast. Probably not an area I'd go just because it would probably be so freaking hot and humid. But McAllen, Texas is seeing some numbers that are interesting in terms of decline in price. In April of 2016, the median list price was $220,000. In April of 2017, median list price was $205,000 for a year-over-year change in median listing price of $15,000. Number 2 on our list, and this one, I'm not surprised by this one. So, yay. There's at least one city on this list that doesn't surprise me. Number 2 is Miami, Florida. In April of 2016, the median list price was $450,000. In April 2017, the median list price was $435,000. The year-over-year change in median listing price is $15,000. Now, while I'm not surprised about this particular change, the thing that makes it so I'm not surprised is the fact that this city absolutely is a reflection of what I talked about at the beginning of the show. The biggest news we've gotten out of Miami and what we've talked about here on this show is the collapse of the luxury market in Miami. Things have taken a huge hit in terms of luxury homes in Miami. This could easily be a reflection of that. So if you're someone who's interested in investing in Miami, this could simply be an indicator to you that the prices you'd pay for a income property aren't likely to be horribly changed, but it may indicate, if because of what we've heard about what's going on in Miami, it's probably an indicator really that there's been a softening at the top end of the property scenarios in Miami. Now, number one on our list, and again in Texas, is Sugar Land, Texas. In April of 2016, the median list price was $415,495. That's quite a bit more than the average for the country. So I mean, not their median is not terribly low. And April 2017 median list price was $399,500, with a year-over-year change in median listing price of $15,995. Now, I actually have some, God, what do you refer to them as? I guess ex-family members, some family from my ex-wife who actually lives in Sugar Land. So I know the area fairly well. And again, it's another one of those areas where it would make me just wonder if maybe there's been some softening at the higher end. Knowing what goes on in Sugar Land, it just surprises me a little bit. Houston has been showing a lot of good numbers for investors for a while. So it might be interesting to see what's going on with prices there and see if you can't find yourself an interesting opportunity. Now, I want to take a step back because for those of you who are longtime listeners to the show, you know that I was very, very jazzed about Round Rock, Texas. So I wanted to sort of look into that a little bit and see what sort of changes we've seen. But the only real way for us to get an idea of what those numbers are, what's going on, is to find out what's going on with rents. Remember, Texas isn't real open about what homes end up selling for. So let's go ahead and look at some historical data on rentals in Round Rock. Now, this is one of those pieces of data where Trulia really doesn't deliver for us. So what I'm doing is looking at Rent Jungle. That is rentjungle.com. If you want to check this out for yourself, they do give some information here on different cities. As of May 2017, average apartment rent within the city of Round Rock, Texas was $1,194. If we look at historical numbers, and what I love about this is on this particular graph, they're breaking it up between all beds, one beds, and two beds. And rents have been steadily increasing. I don't see any decreases. In fact, two beds took a more pronounced increase than one beds and the overall in average. Typically, I'm not sure why they're not doing three beds. This may only be doing apartments. But in any event, I tend to see three bedrooms see the greatest amount of increase. Now, the average apartment rent over the prior 6 months in Round Rock increased $3, 0.3%. One bedroom units have decreased by $6 and two bedroom apartments have increased by $33. It'd be interesting to see. And these are clearly apartment rental information, but this is good baseline data, right? It's easy to sort of extrapolate historical data relating to rents. Typically, apartment rents will suffer before single-family residential rents. So these are good. These are good things to at least get a calibration to. So I'm not seeing a softening in rents really happening. Now, if we do go ahead and jump over to Trulia to try to get an idea. Now, one of the things I like doing whenever I'm looking at properties in Round Rock is tend to hug the 35 freeway a little bit because that's going to be how folks are going to drive south to get into Austin. If they want to use that as their sort of bedroom community, that's kind of how I sort of start. And of course, just like as I've mentioned in other videos, I also like to look at the crime heat map that's on Trulia. One thing I've always loved about Round Rock is there is almost no heavy crime area. There's kind of a little area in the southwest, relatively small. The rest of it seems like a very mellow place where you're not going to get a lot of hassle when it comes to crime rates. All right, so let's go ahead and only look for three bedroom. No max. Let's go with three bedroom minimum, and we'll do single family homes only. All right, and do this search. Let's see what we come up with. All right, and I'm seeing a three bedroom, two bath for $1,862. I'm seeing three bedrooms, $1,450, $1,450, $1,530, so and $1,590, $1,800. Well, that's a nice looking place. Four bedrooms. So I'm seeing very healthy numbers, and I've looked at Round Rock before, And these are all on par, if not higher than what they were before. So what's the point I'm trying to make? I would want to get a look at the homes currently for sale in Round Rock and see ones that fit the bill in terms of properties I'd want to invest in, and try to get in contact with a real estate agent who could connect me with the data to find out what's happening in terms of the brackets. Now, we've talked about price brackets before. And unfortunately, the bracketing is really dependent on the activity at different dollar values, right? So the brackets I see in a city like Morgan Hill, for instance, are going to be different than the brackets you're probably going to see in a city like Round Rock. And what do I mean by brackets? Okay, so I usually break it up by activity. And in my area, any property that's listed for under $600,000 is a gangbusters property. It's going to garner a ton of attention simply because of its price point. Then there's sort of this price point between $600,000 and $800,000 that sees a different level of activity. And then there's the $800,000 to about $1.2 million range. And that is actually shrinking a little bit. It's going from about 1.2 down to 1.1, where that's a greater level of activity. And as soon as you get above that, things tend to dry up pretty quickly. So it doesn't need to be hard and fast. You're simply looking at a chart that shows a price range versus activity, right? And you're figuring out what blocks of price points tend to have more or less activity, right? And it's just a way for you to sort of to plot out the activity in a different market. Looking at data like that can be a great way to figure out why numbers like the median list price might suddenly be down by a certain amount where it's not affecting price points where you would act at all. In fact, that data may not even give you the real skinny. The data we're getting from this news article may not give you the real skinny. That is, yes, while we are seeing a huge softening maybe at the luxury level or these higher priced homes, we're actually seeing an increase in price at some of the lower ends in terms of properties that are more bread and butter, so to speak. So I think that these pieces of data should inspire you to look at cities as opposed to ignore them. I don't think it's something where you should think that there's potentially a decline going on. While I don't have sales numbers in front of me in terms of what homes are selling for over time for Round Rock, I can see the rental numbers. I can see that rents that are currently advertised for Round Rock are healthy and what I've seen in the past. And if I could go in and buy a house for $10,000, $5,000 less now than I could a year ago in Round Rock as an investor, I'm all in. Simply because I'm not seeing things that might affect that, like sudden increases in crime, right? If you've ever taken my advice and looked at the numbers on Trulia, you know that the reports aren't old. All the stuff I look at when I'm looking for properties in my area, the crime statistics are like stuff that happened yesterday, right? Or within the last week. So we're not talking about weird old data. We're talking about pretty up to the minute things that are going on in communities. So it's a pretty good way to gauge what level of activity is going on in different areas as it relates to crime that might concern you as a property owner. All right, folks. I hope that this has been some valuable information for you and perhaps even given you some good leaping off points to go discover some new areas you might want to invest in, or maybe include you in to wanting to look a little bit more closely at some of the data relating to some of these communities. As always, the goal is for you to walk away with more value in terms of information than the time you spent listening to the show, and I hope we've managed to deliver that to you today. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time.